Why was I, a guy who just hit his 60s, suddenly waking up terrified of losing my independence? You know the feeling, right? My muscles were just aching all the time, my energy was completely tanking, and I felt like I was losing my edge day by day, no matter how hard I tried. Honestly, I was scared stiff. I was looking down the barrel of a future where I couldn't even carry my own groceries into the house. But hold on to your hats, because what actually brought my strength back wasn't some overpriced, hyped-up supplement from the local health food store. I actually found hope in a dirt-cheap, vintage grocery hack that completely rebuilt my physique. I'm going to keep the exact solution hidden until the very end of this explainer, but I promise you, what we are going to uncover today will literally change how you look at aging forever. So why do so many guys over 60 hit the gym, chug expensive whey powder, and still watch their muscle just melt away? You probably know exactly what I'm talking about, guys. It's a massive, shared frustration for us older dudes. We're out here spending a small fortune on these giant tubs of synthetic powders, dealing with awful digestion issues, and getting absolutely zilch in return. Our arms still look flat, our joints still ache, and the mirror just doesn't reflect the sweat we're putting in. It feels like a losing battle against time. But what if I told you that the modern bro science we've all been sold is completely backwards for the aging body? Let me drop an incredibly scary number on you right now. 50 to 60%. I bring this statistic up right off the bat because it represents how incredibly inefficient our bodies are at absorbing certain popular, old-school raw proteins that so-called fitness gurus still push today. Imagine paying for a full tank of gas and having half of it just spill right out onto the pavement. That is exactly what's happening inside your gut right now. We're going to get to the actual highly absorbable solution in just a bit, but first we need to understand exactly why the modern approach is failing us so miserably. All right, let's get into section 1, the protein powder illusion and modern science. See, I realized the hard way that treating a 60-year-old body the same way you treat a 20-year-old body is just a recipe for disaster. Let's dive into why. The British Association of Sport and Exercise Sciences, or BASES, released an expert statement highlighting a condition called anabolic resistance. In plain English, this means our older muscles get incredibly stubborn. They become totally resistant to the typical doses of protein that used to work like magic for us in our 20s. You eat a regular meal, and instead of your body using that protein to build a new bicep, it essentially just ignores it. This blunted response is the primary driver of sarcopenia, which is that terrifying age-related muscle loss we all dread. And the BASES data brilliantly illustrates exactly what we need to do to fight back. To overcome this stubborn anabolic resistance, we actually need way more protein than the standard government-recommended dietary allowance. If you're an active guy over 60, you need upwards of 1.2 to 1.6 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, just to stop sarcopenia dead in its tracks. But before you go scooping more of that expensive powder into your shaker bottle, there's a massive catch you really need to know about. The crucial point is found right here in a Tufts University study of 141 older adults. Researchers tested what happens when seniors just add whey protein to their diets without actually changing their activity levels. The result? Zero strength gain. Literally nothing. Chugging whey while sitting in your recliner watching TV is a total waste of your hard-earned bucks. The only group that actually built muscle was the group that combined the protein with physical exercise. Your body has to have a mechanical reason to utilize that fuel. But even knowing this, my joints hurt way too much to exercise, and those commercial powders were absolutely wrecking my stomach. Which leads us to section 2, discovering the 1958 secret. I got totally fed up, chucked my expensive chemical powders right into the trash, and started digging into the past. Think about how our approach to protein has evolved over the years. In the 1930s, guys were relying on raw milk and eggs. Fast forward to the 2000s, and it devolved into heavily processed commercial whey powders packed with artificial sweeteners. But right there in the middle, in the golden era of the 1950s, those post-WW2 guys instinctively built a perfectly balanced survival drink. They used basic, whole food ingredients to fuel their massive workouts without an ounce of today's bro science. They created something absolutely legendary, and I decided I was going to recreate it. Let's break it all down in section 3, decoding the Hercules Cocktail. When I first looked at the ingredients for this thing, I thought it was completely nuts. But we're talking about cheap pantry staples here. The first secret weapon? Unflavored gelatin. Back in the day, mothers used this stuff to thicken cheap desserts, but athletes intuitively scooped it right into their shakes. Why? Because according to modern research out of UC Davis, Gelatin acts as a powerful tendon thickener. It provides massive amounts of the amino acids glycine and proline, which act as biological scaffolding. For about $1.50 a packet, you're feeding your body the exact building blocks it needs to repair micro tears in your cartilage. It stops joint inflammation cold so you can actually lift weights without your knees screaming in pain.
Next up is how they handled protein, and man, this is absolute genius. They mixed fresh eggs with non-fat dry powdered milk. By mixing the rapidly absorbing whey from the egg with the thick, slow-digesting casein gel from the powdered milk, they created a dual-action time-release matrix. The egg gives you a fast leucine spike to immediately trigger muscle protein synthesis, while the powdered milk provides a slow drip feed of amino acids that lasts for 6 to 8 hours. This literally stops your older muscles from cannibalizing themselves overnight. It's a highly sophisticated geriatric protein protocol hiding in a simple vintage recipe. Who knew?
Moving right along to Section 4, the neuromuscular spark. Here's the thing, having muscle tissue is absolutely useless if your brain can't command it to flex. Decades ago, workmen threw a ripe banana and a whole egg into their lunchboxes just for some cheap calories, but they were accidentally protecting their nervous systems. You see, the egg yolk is packed with dietary choline, which your body desperately needs to make acetylcholine. That's the neurotransmitter that initiates physical movement. When you pair that choline with a heavy dose of potassium from a fully ripe banana, you protect the electrical action potentials of your muscle cells. This incredible synergy prevents those terrible, debilitating leg cramps and ensures you maintain the explosive contractile force you need to catch yourself if you ever trip and fall.
And we've got the hard data to back this up. Tufts University researchers found that higher dietary choline and betaine intakes significantly reduce the risk of sarcopenia in older adults. Preserving that nervous system spark is just as critical to staying jacked and mobile as eating the protein itself. Without the choline from that yolk, your motor neurons essentially misfire. It's like having a sports car with a dead battery.
But wait, we need to cover Section 5, the fatal flaw of the 1958 method.
Before you go running to the kitchen, hit the brakes for a second. Mimicking the 1950s method exactly is a dangerous gamble. Those old-school physical culture guys used raw, unpasteurized whole eggs. But according to data from the Marshfield Clinic, that's a bad idea. First off, the bacterial risk of salmonella in raw eggs is high, which is uniquely dangerous for an aging immune system with declining stomach acid. But even worse for your gains, raw eggs contain a protein called avidin that actively blocks your absorption of biotin. And remember that scary 50 to 60% stat from earlier? Our bodies only absorb about half the protein from a raw egg. Cooking or pasteurizing the egg breaks down those barriers, letting you absorb 90% of the protein safely. Huge difference, right? Which brings us to our final part, Section 6, the modern safe recipe. We can take the brilliant nutritional matrix of 1958 and totally upgrade it using modern food science. The secret here is the Johns Hopkins approach to elderly nutrition, which heavily prioritizes food safety, so your body can focus entirely on cellular repair rather than fighting off nasty pathogens. We just execute a simple modern swap. We ditch the raw eggs completely and replace them with pasteurized liquid whole eggs right from the carton. It gives you 100% safe repair, zero risk of salmonella, and maximum protein absorption. Boom. All right, get your notepads out. Here's your exact step-by-step blueprint for the safe 2024 Hercules Cocktail. First, pour 1 cup of whole milk into a blender. Next, add 1/3 cup of non-fat dry milk powder. Then pour in 1/4 cup of pasteurized liquid whole egg. Tear open and add 1 single packet of unflavored gelatin, and finally drop in 1 fully ripe banana. Blend the whole shebang until it's completely smooth. For literal pennies a day, this delivers over 40 grams of highly bioavailable, whole food protein that requires absolutely zero chewing and digests like an absolute dream. But hey, remember what those Tufts and basis studies proved. You can't just drink this and go sit on the sofa. You gotta give those muscles a reason to grow. Personally, I drink this entire mixture within 30 minutes of my morning walk or a light functional resistance routine right in my living room. It fills my stomach comfortably, provides that awesome fast and slow protein drip, lubricates my cranky joints with gelatin, and fires up my nervous system with choline. It's a real game changer. Your body has this incredible capacity to heal and rebuild itself when you just provide it with the correct raw materials. So I'll leave you with this question to chew on. Will you just accept weakness and joint pain as an inevitable consequence of getting older, or will you ditch those synthetic, ridiculously expensive powders and harness this forgotten, scientifically backed wisdom right in your own kitchen tomorrow morning? The choice is entirely yours, my friends. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and I'll catch you in the next one.